Welcome to the Powercast with Charlie Johnson. I'm one of the world's leading fitness and transformation coaches. I'm going to be providing you with the tools to build your ultimate body and mind. So welcome to another episode of the Powercast today, and this is going to be the last episode ever. And I have the pleasure of great friend Chris Spearman jumping on the podcast episode to flip the switch, and he can interview me pretty much on my own show about the last 12 months, me, my life, and some shenanigans that have gone along the way. So reason this is going to be the last episode ever is we're actually going to rename the podcast the Shredder Show, which is going to go down a slightly different tangent to help you guys and girls to get as lean as possible over the next coming months, years, and decades to come. So thank you very much for jumping onto the podcast, Chris.
Dude, always a pleasure. We speak all day, every day. And I think, like you said, this podcast is going to be different. It's throwing the spotlight on you, but in a good way. And hopefully letting your listeners and people who follow you for a long time and look up to you massively to realize, number one, you're a human being. And number two, you're an even better, awesome, amazing human being than they probably realize. And I have the fortunate privilege of experiencing kind of our friendship. And I think there are a lot of cool things about you that people don't realize in terms of, say, how hard you work, how much you invest into this, how much you really love what you do. People see that, but I don't think people fully see the depths of what you have to go to make your life and this whole thing a success. So hopefully I can kind of pick these beats, here, there, everywhere, and kind of let people into who Charlie Johnson is more so, which is great.
100%. So I have absolutely no idea about any of the questions, what tangents this is going to go down. So it should be an interesting one to see where we go with this.
Cool. So some of the first few bits is, well, firstly, I want to ask how you have found the last year. How have you found the last year of life?
I would say, firstly, I probably lived more in the last 12 months than I had the last 10 years. And that's with all due, it feels like time's expanded, yet time's accelerated, if that makes sense, at the same time, because I've had, and this is what, I always wanted, was a life full of experiences and doing things and having an impact on people. And throughout the last 12 months, I've done that, and it literally has flown by. But in reality, it feels like it's been like a decade, almost every year, if that makes sense.
It was only just over a year ago that you left your full-time job, which is crazy. Yeah. I think people sometimes forget that, or people sometimes go, "Oh shit, what, really?" Because even speaking to some of the guys, that we're friends with, they're like, "Oh, I completely forgot that Charlie was essentially juggling a really successful job at the same time as doing this." And I think sometimes it's important for people to realize that you're in an incredible place right now. And I know you will never be fully settled. You always want to do better. And you're so similar to me in that sense, but that it's taken a lot to get here in a good way. You've put in an enormous amount of hard work. And I think a lot of people sometimes look at Instagram and they go, "Oh, he's just got in good shape and he's done this and done that." And I don't think people realize how hard you've worked and how much you want this. And that freedom is awesome. And where you're at now is incredible. I want you to pick out some of your highlights of the last, I'm not going to say the last year, I'm going to say since you started CJ Fitness. Pick out some of maybe the highlights.
This is a very good question. So I would say there's going to be there's going to be a couple here. So firstly,
dude, take your time. I want to hear them all.
The first few that really resonate in my mind, the first time I started doing the Shred and 8 competitions and giving away the prizes and traveling to the winners, because that was an amazing experience to spend more time with clients firsthand and see how happy they are with their success, because ultimately that's what drives me and gives me fulfillment, is helping people and people being happy with what they've achieved and me having a small part in that. So for example, over the last year I went to Ryan Carson in Glasgow, Adi O'Gara in Dublin. Adi actually pronounced your name correctly, not Addy. That took a long time. Scott Johnson in Carlisle I went up to. We flew over to Houston in Texas to see Eric Rodriguez. And then we also had Dan, who came down to Muscleworks in Orpington. So very, very fortunate to have met all of these guys who've absolutely smashed it. And like each and every time, it always amazes me is like how much of an impact you can have on someone's life who personally I've never actually met in person. Obviously I've spoken to them a fair few times, but that was probably the biggest and most fulfilling thing throughout the year. And then that aside, something very, very similar would be the client meetup seminar I did in Nottingham I think it was in July or August. That was hugely fulfilling to spend some time with like a group of clients together and see how happy they were with like the community that's been created, supported like-minded individuals. Because like you and me were both the same, that like what really breeds success is an environment of success. So having the correct influence in terms of the people around you is really what we want to be. So that's like reality for me.
That get together in Nottingham looked awesome. It really did. And, you know, for you to see, you know, all of the, you know, say your other clients there at the same time was awesome. Right. You know, I think for them to meet each other as well is just, you know, it's something that they wouldn't have experienced before.
Awesome. And then I think that's the reality, is it's like for them to see other people on the same journey who are going through the same like challenges, same wins as them, it gives them a lot of reassurance. The same with the way we coach people now in terms of like the way the one-to-one side of what I do is evolved. We have group calls twice a week. Like it's really a community of like, these people aren't clients, they're friends. And that's like, for me, gives me more of a value to want to help them even more, because like I care about these people greatly and I can tell like they care about me. So it's a very cool dynamic in that respect, because everyone's trying to help each other and try and help each other level up.
What about your personal highlight reel over the last, say, few years? Things that stand out in your life. And the reason this is important is because you're very real. Like the person that we see online is you. Maybe what people don't see is that you work harder than people realize. You know, I think people think, you know, oh, they're online, they're doing this. I want people to really dig into that. And also I think that you're just a genuine human being. And sometimes those aspects, you know, get hidden. I think you're very good at bringing that across in your story and everything that you do. And I think that's really what resonates with people. And you've been allowed to live this life that you absolutely love because of everything that you do and the lives that you change. But what are maybe some of the personal experiences that you've been able to experience because of all this too? What would the personal highlight reel over the last few years have been?
This is a slightly different maybe answer than you expecting. So maybe I say the biggest like win would be for me beating my own personal insecurities of when I first started trying to come into this and do what I wanted. Was that there was a lot of people trying to put you down, hold you back, like, and these can be people very close to you, friends, family, and it's overcoming that negative connotations from them in some respects, because like these people are only looking out for your own good, but they don't necessarily see the journey you see ahead of you or where you aspire to be, no matter how much you try and make that clear to them. So it's very much probably like beating my own insecurities and creating confidence in myself, which now I have got utmost confidence that I could achieve anything I want. Like similar to yourself, if I wanted to become I want to become an astronaut, I could probably work out a way to do it. I just need to find the right people to learn from to become an astronaut. Like that's very much my mindset,
Yeah.
and that's the way I want to go with everything now. I think that comes down to a few things, even like personal highlight reels was, although I haven't done it for a while, would be competing a couple of times. The times I have done, the show's not over yet, but like
You've
that was
competed twice.
yeah, 3
Oh,
times.
3 times.
Yeah, 3
And
times.
I was at all three.
So that was very, very much a cool thing. Like something that really resonates in my mind is the show I did at Body Power, because it was all like they had massive screens and it felt like a big deal. So that was pretty sick.
Yeah.
Like for me, that was a big win, because that was something I never thought I had the ability to do. Not the ability, but I didn't have the confidence maybe myself to do. So I think that's one of those things that like once you achieve these small wins of achieving something you didn't think was possible, you then create a whole nother level of, you think, holy shit, like I can do anything I want as long as I work really, really hard, have a plan, and just stick to it and be consistent. Then that's the reality for you achieving your goals. And that's like the one thing you've said a few times to me is like just being relentless about stuff. And that's, for me, it's just like consistently repeating the right processes and the right habits. And like I spoke about my story yesterday, the thing I like to think about is who's the person I want to be? Like, what is it I want to achieve? Like, who's your hero? And my hero for me is who I am in 5 years' time, who I am in 10 years' time. And I know when I get there in 5 years' time, it'll be a different person that will be my hero of who I want to be. But it's not becoming the hero, it's creating the right habits on a daily basis to become the hero, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think some mentors of ours have had some conversations with me along the lines of, and one of the things probably that stands out is at the end of whatever you believe in, and whatever religion or whatever end of life on this earth is, if you were to meet your fullest potential in person, how similar would they look to you?
And that's something I think on a daily basis. And I there is nothing worse. Like the greatest fear I have is like when I'm about to die is having a regret that I didn't do something or I didn't maximize the opportunities I had or who I could be, if that makes sense. And that's, I don't think you should fear anything in life, but that's probably my fear is that, I would say.
What challenges have you had? Let's say business challenges first, and what maybe some of the things that people don't see, maybe some of the aspects of the business that you've perfected, got better at, but like we all struggle, maybe hiccups, things that you know no one else sees, some of the triumphs no one else sees of ours, and none of the, say, challenges no one else really sees other than our close friends. And sometimes even then, what would be some of the main challenges CJ Fitness, Shredded Nate, and you've gone through business wise, that have forced you to grow, up level, upskill?
I think it's very much from going from a one-man band where like if it's just you and you've got 20 clients or so, it's fairly easy, like smooth sailing. You don't have to be that organized. You can sort of wing stuff. And like, I'm not an inherently organized person, but then I've had to become an organized person.
That's so interesting, because to me, you're one of the most organized people I know. And maybe that's your level of organization from being in the corporate world is different to mine. But that's interesting. That's interesting. But you've, just like you said, you've been able to rectify that really quickly, I think.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, it's trying to, like, because you can see if you're not organized and you're not structured and you don't have the right systems, like this is going to cause problems and be a headache. And like, there's a saying that I love, is like, if you want to find like a good way to do something, find a lazy person to do it, because they find the most efficient way possible. And like, inherently, I'm not lazy, but I'm lazy in the fact that I don't want to waste time. So because I have things I want to achieve and do in my life, and I want to enjoy my life, I don't want to be making things harder than I have to. So for me, it's very much about getting structured, systemized with everything, and keeping it efficient. And it's very much the same. And like, this is all what I owe to what I've learned from training and fitness, is like the same structure of like, okay, I need to eat this time, I need to train at this time. And like, it gives me, it plans out my day. Like my training will be like the anchor of the day that I will set everything around, and then I'll build my day out around from that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And people don't see a lot of the challenges, obviously, when organization and growing teams and things like that. And does any one thing stand out to you as, fuck, this was just an absolute balls?
Do you know what, just thinking about it very much reminds me to the egotistical Charlie of his early 20s, when he would never ask anyone for training advice or help with anything. Like, the big thing that I've learned, and I'm learning constantly, is that the more you learn from other people and you work with other people and you ask for help, the faster you're going to progress with everything. So like, to give an example we spoke about before we got on the call, I've just joined a fitness mentorship with Ben Pekulski because I want to try and learn and up level my knowledge. Yes, I already know what I'm doing and I'm a very good coach and I've got a decent physique already, but could I be better and learn more? Yes. And it's that reality. And I think from a business side of things, and like my own life organization, like reaching out to you as a great friend to help me. I've got Big Frank in Holland, and like doing some of the other stuff I've done is really the key that's helped maybe calm me down, because I think you picked up on it very earlier in the year that I get, because I'm very driven, I get very anxious about a lot of things that they're not progressing quickly enough, or I'm not, like, things aren't happening as I want sometimes. And it's very difficult for people to understand. And it's the same from a fitness perspective. You have to be able to, like, sometimes just chill and just stick to the structure of the plan, what you're trying to do, and not try and chase things or push things through, because in reality, when you try and do that, it only ends up with problems.
Yeah, I think, dude, you've been able to do that really, really well. I've noticed even in you the last even few weeks since lockdown that there's been a massive change. I want to talk about that because everyone in the whole world has gone through that, and I feel, be it in my life, what I've seen, in my cancer research days, there are two types of people in this world: the people who see an obstacle and they rise above it and become better and upskill and up level and use it as a reason to succeed, and other people who play a victim. And I think everyone listening to this knows which one you are. How has the coronavirus scenario changed Charlie Johnson as a person, firstly?
This is one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. It's like everyone has the opportunity to deal with situations in a different manner, and you can consciously decide how you look upon a challenge. Now, like when this first kicked off, like I'm not going to lie, for probably about 24 hours, I shit a brick like pretty much everyone else. I was like, okay, I'm completely self-employed. I employ all these people now, and I've got all these like obligations. So I was like, I probably had about 24 hours of like, oh fuck. And then I was like, exactly you said. I said, there's two opportunities here. You either use this situation as an opportunity to make yourself proud when you look back about how you dealt with it, or you become a victim and you have a victim's mindset of like, oh, coronavirus happened, it fucked me over. And that's very much the same I said to fitness clients. It's like, look, when you look back at this, like you can either look back and be like, holy shit, like I dealt with this so well, I'm incredibly proud of what I did. Or you can be like, I fucked up, I got put on loads of weight, I just watched Netflix and binged it and just created terrible habits. So like for me, I very much try to like take action with it. So there's a saying I love, is action beats anxiety. So like first thing I did was like on my whiteboard in my office, like wrote lockdown projects. And originally lockdown was supposed to be for 21 days. We're now into like nearly 3 months. To give some context. And I wrote down loads of things I could do, just try and help clients, provide value, and just try and provide support. And that was very much the first and foremost thing I did, was just try and like work my way out of trouble. And so for probably like the first 3 weeks straight of lockdown, I was getting up at 5 every day, working flat out. Like people don't see the reality of that and what it takes to do that, and the strains that puts on you and your relationships and things like that sometimes. So that very much was my approach, and it worked very well. And we managed to like pivot, and we helped loads of clients. We changed the Shred and Eat program so it's now more affordable. We offer loads of home workouts which we weren't doing before, and we're getting people in incredible shape all over the world. And guess what? It's in like the shittest, most difficult time ever, and people are absolutely smashing it. And we've got more clients coming on board than ever, because guess what? We're helping more people around the world. And like realistically, my big ambition is to help as many people as possible. And the reality is that people now have a bigger problem than ever, that they didn't know how to train at home. They didn't know what to do. And it's going to be the same when like post lockdown, like people aren't going to know what to do when they go back into the gym. So like, that's very much my next thought process, is like, how can we help people and provide more information to get back into training, to get back into shape? Because I think like the average stat is the average person's put on like 4 or 5 kilos during lockdown. So there's going to be, again, a lot of people who need help to get back into where they were beforehand, if that makes sense. But the big thing for me, I think I've learned, is like having more control over my conscious thought process, and how I look at a challenge is very much a big learning curve. And I think, I can't remember this conversation I was having with you, but like it's very much made me realize that the importance of experience in life, because once you've been through a challenge and then you've come out the other side like plus, and you're still doing well because you dealt with it in a correct adult manner, then I think that's an experience that you'll have for the rest of your life, that when you next see, hopefully never coronavirus again, but I don't know, I was going to say the internet went bust or something stupid, I don't know, just making something up, but like you would have a better way of dealing with it, because you think, okay, I've been through this challenge before, I can overcome this again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we've obviously gone through this. Like, what's the probability that there'll be another global pandemic? For us, we don't know. But what I do know is, if and when that ever did happen, we'd know exactly what to do. We'd be like, oh, okay, been here before, know what to do. It wouldn't even, yeah, it would be, oh, fuck's sake, but we'd know what to do. And I think that's the same with any obstacle in life, is once you are presented with that obstacle, you can address it, you figure out a better way to go around it. yeah, maybe it may not happen again, but if it does, you know, you're ready. And you've done that obviously from a personal level. As a friend, I've been able to see you grow massively, as you know, as a human. And also I feel like you've relaxed a little in a good way. You've been able to become more focused, more clear, more thoughtful about, you know, what's actually important in your life. How useful is that? Because there are a lot of people who are going to be going back into the workspace over the next few months and back to the rat race, back to this and that. And I'm too busy for this and too busy for that. And you work harder than 99.999% people I've ever met in my life, yet you've still found value in walking, breathing, taking some time, reading a book. How useful has that been for you?
This is a very, very weird thing to say, but this COVID-19 outbreak is probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And that's probably like not something anyone would ever expect to hear. And I don't mean that disrespectfully for anyone who's died, but like it's really forced me to internally look at myself rather than look at the external of like just focusing on my physique and stuff from the outside. So like for me, I've really focused on like now I've got a perfect environment. I'm in the same place for a while, obviously. It's really given me an opportunity to like get a greater understanding of my like brain, my own thought processes and managing myself. And it's the same for every single person out there. Like the only thing holding you back from achieving what you want in life is your own thought process and your own mind and your own limiting beliefs. So like it's given me clarity in terms of like control of myself and really reinforce the idea of how much important it is to be able to have a clear thought process, like going for a walk every day, leaving my phone at home, reading a book for half an hour. Like it's given me a conscious control of my own brain and what affects me and what doesn't affect me. Whereas I think very much before is very much like go, go, go all the time. And just, as I said earlier in the podcast, like trying to chase stuff and just being busy for the sake of being busy, was now very much trying to almost like slow myself down and then have a more of a calculated approach to my life so I can enjoy it better, help people more, and have a clearer thought process with less stress, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm going to do something a little different, a little unique for a podcast. I've got a stopwatch beside me. I'm going to click start, and you've got 60 seconds. I want you to have a conversation with everyone here, detailing exactly what you would say to yourself when lockdown started. Go.
First thing I said to myself as soon as this starts is you have to lead by example. So like people look up to you and expect you to deal with this, and people will be looking at you to see
you've
how
got
you
60 seconds. You want to get quick info across.
Okay, so get clear action points of what you want to do to try and like get the end result you're looking for, and how to lead by example, because people are going to be looking at you either if you're going to fall by the wayside or you're going to stand up and come through this stronger. So take action and like make a clear list on a daily basis of what you need to achieve. Good. And keep it structured.
30 left. Keep going.
To the outcome you're looking for. So keep things structured, take action, and keep yourself accountable on a daily basis by writing it down. Enough? 15
seconds. What else would you tell yourself?
In addition to that,
you're going back to the future.
I'd reach out to a support network and make sure you have people around you to bounce ideas off for when your head goes
7, 6. What's the last thing you'd say?
Write notes every day as a diary.
Epic. Done. With 0.1 second to spare. So it's interesting when you're in that scenario, and that's something that someone threw on me the other day, and I was like, oh, that's such an interesting one. Because what it does is it forces us to go, shit, what would we do? I'm going to ask you the same question, and you've got another 60 seconds. And you need to think, what would I say to Charlie when he first got into the fitness space? If it was just bullet points, you need to get across as much info as possible, telling yourself in the past what you wish you knew. Go.
Find a mentor for every aspect of life that you need help with. So I go to the best bodybuilding, like weight training coach I could find, the best nutritionist I could find, the best health expert I could find. I would go to like social media experts from a business side of thing. I'd go to business experts from a business side of thing, IT experts. I would just try and learn and absorb as much knowledge as possible to try and accelerate my progress, because that's the key. And then I would also focus on keeping a clear structure of your day of what you're trying to achieve by the high performance planner from Brenda Bouchard, because that's awesome. And
25 seconds left. What would you say to Charlie the human?
Charlie the human, I would say create time for yourself, which I still struggle with. And I'd say like be grateful and thank those around you who support you on a daily basis, which is something I very much focus on trying to do now. So, and create and remove negativity from your environment, physical or people.
Perfect. Nicely timed. I think that gives people a very good look into, if you had a very short space of time, what are the things that have really resonated with you in your life over the last period of time. I want to take a slightly different approach also. And in terms of maybe people listening who have followed your journey and watch you on Instagram and have seen your ads and see everything, and they see that, what would you say to them? Like, it's completely just Charlie the human. Like, as a man who, you've got the world at your feet, but you still struggle with, maybe putting things to one side sometimes, and de-stressing, and the very basic things that all human beings have challenges with, and that it doesn't change no matter how many followers you have on Instagram, no matter how much money you have in the bank. Those things don't change. What would you say if you were speaking to every human being from a human being standpoint, not Charlie CJ Fitness, global icon, just as a human? What would you say?
I'm the same as you. Like I'm a real person. I have the real same challenges that you do with family, with people who have health scares, with like the stresses of just general life, with my own personal challenges, with my own like mind, my own self-doubts, because like a lot of people have, like one of the biggest reasons people can't achieve what they want is they don't believe in themselves, and they're doubtful, they can't commit to things. Like my issue is that it's never been that I can't commit to things like now. Maybe 5 years ago it probably was. And that's where everything really changed for me. I think when I started committing and jumping with both feet, but I think very much people, like the real me is that I have the same challenges on a daily basis that everyone else does, in terms of like, I need to try and find time to work out, spend time with my wife, like all the same challenges everyone else have. Like I have exactly the same. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. It's just how you choose to structure your day and how efficient you become with that that's really going to make the difference. And I think that's where a lot of people don't realize they actually live a very inefficient life. And like for me, I referred to earlier, like I'm inherently lazy in a lot of respects, so that I want to try and be as efficient as possible with my time. So like in that respect, to say like, I'm the same as you. I have all the challenges that you have, the same emotional challenges of I know, body issues, body dysmorphia, which I've spoken about in a previous podcast, that people will look up to someone like me and think like you've got everything, but then that doesn't necessarily make it easier, because you always want more, or you always want something different perhaps. And I think that's probably some context for people, if that makes sense. Because like for me, I think one of the big things that's changed, that materialistic stuff means nothing to me, that all that matters to me is family, experiences and fulfillment. And like what's been slightly frustrating at the moment is there's lack of experiences, because like my favorite hobbies are probably traveling, eating out, and then like working out, and obviously we can't travel anywhere, and I'm very much getting itchy feet. But like I'm the same as you and have the same challenges, but it's just the way you choose to look upon those and maybe manage those internally, I think is maybe the difference that other people need to learn. I think that is very much the thing I'd like advocate and want to get across from this episode, is that like you being happy and not even achieving what you want, but just being happy is about you learning about yourself and what's important to you.
Yeah. That's something that you've just done that all, like for context for guys listening, myself and Charlie met in the gym that we used to train in. We were training partners maybe 5-6+ years ago, and we're just looking at you now, and then you're just night and day in all aspects of your life, in maybe your mindset, how much you invest into this yourself and your life and your business. Obviously you have in the business, you've been in better shape, and to me you've always been in good shape, but it's just an aura of relentlessness. And I say this to you all the time. People are going to laugh at this, but I've said, Charlie, I don't know if you can box at all, but the analogy still remains. I said, if I was to get in a ring with anyone, forget the fact Charlie's one of my best friends, I would hate to get in a ring with Charlie, because he's just completely relentless. If he's going to do something, he will just be consistently relentless forever until it happens. Where do you think that comes from? Do you think it's coming from a deep rooted knowing your why, or is it just an inbuilt competitive aspect, or both?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I don't think, in being honest, it's probably driven by a combination mainly of fear and insecurity, that I am worried about not achieving what I want and not making those around me proud of me, if that makes sense. That's probably the biggest driving factor for me. I think it's very much like seeing what my capabilities are and then achieving what I know I'm capable of. And that's my fear, is, as we said earlier, is like me getting to, I don't know, 75, 80, looking back and thinking like, you took your foot off the gas and you just pissed away your life, which for me is not pissed away your life. It's people's choice with what they want in life, but what I want in my life is to have impact and help people so that I can have a positive influence on people's lives, and not just coast through life, which respectfully I see a lot of people doing. And like, if you can have a positive influence on one person's life a day, like for me, that's a big impact. And I'm big into like the whole law of attraction idea of things, that if you go out that mindset of trying to help one person every single day, like positive people, positive things will come into your life by the nature of the way you conduct yourself and the way you behave.
How addictive is it to know that you've helped change someone's life and you just want to keep doing it over and over again?
Yes, it's like if I've never done like really like recreational drugs, but if I was a drug addict, I'd imagine it's very much the same sort of thing, because there's nothing like, it's like a weird thing to say, but it makes you very, very warm and fuzzy inside when you get like a long message from someone. They're like, you completely changed my life. I can't believe what's happened to me. You've turned me around. Because I was very much like that probably early in my life, that I was lost. I couldn't find my way of what I wanted of who I was. Maybe I didn't have my identity yet. And it's taken me a while to, as we said earlier, create the right habits and actions on a daily basis to become my version of my hero, who I'm not yet. But maybe if I looked back at who I am now compared to when I was 20, would I be happy with that? I probably would say so. But in reality, I think you should always aspire for more. But I think the feeling and the fulfillment from helping people is really why I do what I do. Because in reality, I was in a job, for anyone who didn't know before, in like real estate for anyone in America, or like a state agency in the UK. And yeah, the money was cool, and I was like respectfully very, very good at what I did. But there was no emotional fulfillment from it. It's just a transactional process, and very rarely would you get a job well done. So for me, it was very much, how can I help people, and what makes me happy, and what makes me happy is making other people happy.
Yeah. What slightly off topic again, but valuable. What 5 books would you recommend if you could only have read 5 books to this point? What 5 would they be, and why?
I have got about 1 million I've bought in probably the last 3 weeks that I need to.
That's what I asked. For those of you guys who don't know, Charlie's going through a fair few right now. So what 5 would you give to people? Because the reality is, a very small percentage of people listen to this actually read that often. Now, some people will be massive into personal development, but most people don't read as much as they could. So if we're to give them shortcut their time to not read a lot of books that they, not say they don't need, but if you were to condense it just to 5 books that anyone should read between now and the end of the year, would they be, and why?
So I'm looking at my bookshelf now to resonate with these. So the first one I'd go through is Your Erroneous Zones by Dr. Wayne Dyer, which is very much about your own self-awareness and you being aware that, like, if you feel anxious, that's your own conscious decision. If you feel negative, that's your own conscious decision, and that you have control on the way you look at things and perspective. So like, now is an awesome time to have perspective with this shit situation. I shouldn't say shit situation. The I don't call it the pandemic that's going on at the moment. Like, you now don't have the opportunity to go to a proper gym. So I imagine sometime within the last 12 months, you probably got to gym and like, I can't be fucking asked for this. But I bet now, but that's your own conscious decision to feel like that. But I bet you if someone offered you now, like, oh, do you want to go to the gym? You'd probably pull their arm off. So that's a very, very good book for in terms of your own awareness of you and who you are, maybe you finding your own identity and control of yourself. Next up, I'd say The One Thing by Gary Keller is a very good book, and it's a book in regards to what's like the most important thing that you really need to focus on. So like in particular with the world we live in now, we're constantly distracted and stimulated by phones, computers, TV, whatever it might be. It's like, what's the one thing that's really going to help you add value to your life? That would be an excellent book. Next up, I would go for Atomic Habits, which I'm actually rereading again, which has so much value in terms of what we were talking about earlier and you becoming your hero in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, wherever it is. Because in reality, you becoming the person you want to be is down to the daily habits you create for yourself. So that would be book number.
I hope you guys are taking notes, because those are 3 books I've actually not read, believe it or not. So I'm
Atomic Habits is probably one of the best books I've ever read, I think. Very, very good.
Amazing.
Next one I'd go for is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I can't remember who the author is. I know you've got it, so you might know who it is.
T. Carnegie.
Yeah, so that's an excellent book. I haven't read that for 2 years or so maybe, but that would be something very much I'd recommend. And then
last one.
I'm going to go for. Look at my bookshelves. I'm going to go for. Let's have a look. There's too many to choose from. I tell you what, yeah, I'd go for the book Influence. So it's by Robert P. Cialdini. So that's a very good book in terms of, again, like how you can have a positive influence on people and their psychology to, again, create the right habits. I think the interesting thing you might notice out of these 5 books, they're all very much your thought process.
Yeah, they're all mindset thought process around controlling your thoughts and how beneficial your thoughts can be to impacting your life.
And that all comes back down to what we were saying earlier. It's like, what is the bottleneck or the limiting factor from you achieving whatever you want to achieve in life? And that's your own brain, your own thought process. It's not your body. If you want to get in shape, if you want to get in shape, what's going to get you in shape is you having the right habits and daily actions of a person who's got 10% less body fat. And that's a fact.
So, I think it's between 70 and 80% of podcasts don't get above 11 episodes. This has got to 100, and it's the very last episode of this show, which was it's been amazing. I've not listened to all of them yet, but you've had some incredible guests. They've all told you, their life stories and given value and what they're doing next in their lives. What's next in Charlie's? Where Charlie's 30 right now, same as myself. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? And not just like tell us where you're going to be. I want you to talk us through the journey of the next 5 years. What would be some of the stepping stones in moving towards where you want to be? How many lives you want to change? The things that are going to happen, not the end product. I want you to, just for a few, talk us through the process that is about to happen over the next 5 years. Because anyone listening to this knows that if you say it's going to happen on this podcast, it's happening. That's just the way you are. But talk us through it, because we want a little bit of a preview for what we're about to watch.
Yeah. So for me, I see the next 5 years as very much the journey that I've almost gone through the last 12 months. And I think even during lockdown, this has resonated with me even more, is that the importance of learning and knowledge. And I know I've asked you a few times, I'm trying to learn to speed read so I can acquire information faster. And something else I also mentioned is the importance of life experience. And now I'm 30, like my wife started buying Gardener's World magazines. I'm very much feeling 30. I shouldn't jest. It is getting a bit of a joke though. She's now watching gardening shows. So like now coming into 30s and like thinking towards like, where do I want to be at 35? Like the thing for me is that I want to be the best in the world that I can in terms of everything, from being a trainer, from having been a husband, from hopefully being a father one day. Like those sort of things are really important to me. So that's really where I'm going. It's going like an educational route.
On those 3 points, from a friend to a friend, forget everyone else is listening, as emotional as I'm getting, you've achieved those three things already. You just haven't realized it yet, which is a pretty cool thing. And that, if anything, and anyone listening to this has identified it's very easy to look at social media and think that someone has, a persona or an ego, and there's just none of that with you. Yes, of course, social media will portray that way, and that's just the way social media is. But the reality is, you're so humble, you're so genuine, you're so honest. You are my best friend. Um, and I hope at some point today you take a minute, take half hour, sit down and go, fuck, what I've managed to do has been fucking incredible. And I'm excited for your next 5 years. And I'm glad that I'm going to be some part of it, at least as a great friend. But anyone listening to this and anyone who watches what you do, they're in for a pretty cool 5 years too. They just don't get to see what we see.
Yeah, I think, like, talking back on that, I think some of the highlights over the last year was like the time we spent together traveling around America was very eye-opening.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So I think about that time a lot, and I think I'm very much, that's my big thing I'm looking forward to at the moment, is when we can resume normal activities of like exploring the world, learning more and becoming better human beings, because I know your morals and motives are the same as mine, is helping as many people as you can. And that's very much where I'm excited to see where everything could be within 5 years' time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think anyone who's watched you thus far has seen in a short space of time you do some incredible things. 5 years is a lot, dude. A year is a long time. Think of where you were a year ago, and the next 5 years is going to be huge. So, what would be, let's just say I asked you the same question I asked you at the very start of this podcast, but I asked you that question in 5 years' time. What would be the highlights of the next 5 years? Tell me. Take me into the future, take everyone else into the future. What are those highlights going to be?
I think for me, like the big things I'm looking forward to is very much like family stuff, starting a family, potentially moving house, things like that would probably be like the big things that first come to mind. And then very much trying to help more people on a global scale. And I want to do much more hands-on stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing some things in terms of like training camps and to try and provide people with more knowledge, because the best way for me to have more of an influence on people is to give them knowledge and the ability to help themselves, which is what we do within the coaching programs. It's like, yes, we'll get you in awesome shape in 12 weeks, 12 months, whatever it is. But the reality of what success looks like is not the short here and now. It's the long term, like you having created the right habits and thought process throughout the process to become the person you want to be at the end of the journey. So for me, it's very much more focusing on family and creating the life that I want for my family, that I know they'll appreciate, and then also creating the environment of success for people so that it solves the problems that a lot of people are having in terms of like getting in shape, confidence, mental health issues, which I think are all things that are getting worse and worse, unfortunately, due to social media in some degrees and some of the shit that's put out there, which I referred to in a few posts. Anyone who saw a bit of the long email I sent regarding that skinny jab bullshit, that very much is where I'm looking to be, is to try and help people and protect them from getting to that sort of situation where they're looking into things like that.
Yeah, dude, I think, anyone who's listened to any of, and all of your last podcast can only thank you. And as a friend, as a listener, as someone who watches your stories every day, someone who has a keen, invested interest in you from an outset and from an inside, I want to thank you massively for everything that you do. I'm really excited for the next chapter of your life, for the start of the new podcast, and for the next 5 years of your life.
100%. So be interested to see where we're both at 5 years' time.
Either way, dude, we're going to be somewhere with a Bailey's, some ice, chilling in the sun. Yeah, dude.
So,
been a pleasure.
If anyone listening to this found this helpful, insightful, please share it your stories, tag myself and Chris, because we'd be fascinated to know any feedback on it, and more information on the next podcast will be coming out shortly. We'll be blasting out about 10 very short episodes quite quickly back to back, which will be going through the science of fat loss and the keys to you really achieving the goals you want to be. So Thank you so much, Chris, and flipping this podcast on myself.
Loved it, dude. Pleasure.
Now, that was an absolutely killer episode of the Powercast. Hope you guys absolutely loved it. Now I want to fill you in something I put together, which is absolutely incredible to help you not just survive during this quarantine, but actually thrive and come out of the situation in your best shape ever. So I appreciate a lot of people are really struggling at the moment in terms of knowing how to train from home, knowing how to stick to the diet when stuck in the house. There's ladies in lockdown, guys stuck in the house. There's a lot of issues going on here. And I wanted to come forward to help you guys and girls come out of the situation as a success. Now, what I have done is completely revamped my world famous Shred-N-8 and Sculpt-N-8 programs. And what's even more exciting about this is I'm giving you 77% off on the price of the program. So normally it costs £149 or $200. Now you can sign up for just £37 per month or $45. And what's better, you can actually lock this price in for the rest of the year so you get a new training program and new diet every 8 weeks. Now, the new versions of the program are fully home workout based, just using your body weight and some basic bands. These will get you the normal world famous results that you get on Shred-N-8 and Sculpt-N-8, so you come out of this situation in the best shape ever. If you'd like to get involved, please click the link below in the podcast notes or drop me a message with any questions. We'd love to have you not just another client of Shred-N-8 and Sculpt-N-8, but another success story.